Alright, let's see if this one worked. Yes. Yes. Okay, I'm gonna blast this out to a couple socials and then we'll get started. Let me go find this link. Let's see. Let's go. Alright. I got one more place to spam my stuff. One or two more places. Let's see. I think I can put anything here. Share content. Okay. And okay. Alright, so that's a really great poll. It says, let's do some live stream stuff. Like? Sure. Sure. Okay. So cool. So we have a good show today. I'm gonna get this out of here just for now. So I was gonna do two things today. I'll type it in the chat. The first agenda like activity, I don't know what the right word to say is going to smart subreddits. I don't know how many of you guys use Reddit or have used Reddit in the past. Reddit's really cool because you can find like it's nice because the one interesting person out of 1,000, and I'm usually in the 999 who are not interesting out of that 1,000. Like everyone likes their post, and so it goes to the top, right? That's how Reddit works. And so you get the like the funniest or the nicest or the most unusual answer to the top. But that doesn't really work for like academic content, right? It's one of those crazy things. So and you can picture this. It's like, if you're doing a college math class and like really esoterically answering like, well, oh, does 2 + 2 = 4? Is there a more interesting answer to that question? You and I could both think that there is, but there isn't, right? The answer to that question is, well, 2 always equals 2. 2 is 2. Maybe 2's not this like real thing, but if you have a 2, it is a 2. It's like a 2. It's kind of like saying like if I got a link, if I have a link to my channel down here or whatever, it's not like a clickable link, but anytime you go to YouTube, DuxY, you're always going to end up on DuxY my channel, right? If that doesn't happen, it doesn't mean my channel isn't at that like location on the internet. What it means is that you entered the link wrong or the internet broke. Like, if you add 2 and 2 and you don't get 4, did the numbers break? Oh, you can't add 2 plus 2 and not have 4. It's always 2 and 2. And so when you go to smart subreddits, when you go to like academic topics and stuff like that, you don't actually get like the most interesting or the funniest, or like the one guy, the one person, one guy, girl, person, whoever out of 1,000 who has something unique to say that everyone likes and it floats to the top. You just get the answer. You learn how other people answer the question. And so I'm going to show you a couple of the places I pat around. If you're into philosophy, if you like politics at all, I'm gonna show you, like, I got to get this guy's name out of my tongue because I'm talking about Rob Noor too much, but like, there's some of these sort of right-leaning, woke right-leaning commentators and stuff like that. When they talk about like international affairs or foreign affairs, they talk about our budget. The U.S. budget, I'm not gonna talk about all the other important stuff. I'm just gonna talk about the budget. Megyn Kelly. I'm gonna talk about Megyn Kelly all the time. That's not what if you went to a political science school and you said like, well, Megyn Kelly, you just walk into the dean's office and what you say is, Megyn Kelly. That's going to turn out a little bit differently. They're going to look at you like, well, what did you actually just go do? What did you, why are you bringing up this issue? Who the fuck is Megyn Kelly? Nobody knows. And so that's number one. And we're gonna do this on philosophy. Sometimes we are going to be, whatever. If you guys want to leave comments, let me know. Here, let me finish sending this. That's the first thing. We're going to getting owned and owning people. So we're going to both be getting owned and own people. The other agenda, number 2, is I found a cool documentary. I don't know if we're going to watch the whole thing. It's like a content review, right? But it's cool. They talk about Islam and the politics, from Islam. There's a lot of historical context. You can debate and argue about how much we can actually put on Islam for a modern context. Should we? Is that the right way to have the conversation? And I think the documentary focuses on Iran, which is really cool, because Iran obviously was a democracy, and after that they decided to go another way. So when we're talking about looking at like Islamic society, we see this punctuated point in history. This is one of the interesting things when we talk about like Iranian history. Is it the fact that you have an Islamic revolutionary group who actually came out into politics, and then some of their leaders became reformists, which is interesting. A lot of times we define the Islamic State as this one point in time, the Islamic State of Iran. That might not be the right way to look at it, right? Maybe it is. Maybe you can just look and say, well, look, we have these like corrupt elections. That's what the West is always going to say, is it's corrupt elections, it's taking hostages, it's these like decisions to funnel and siphon state resources into another location. And this is like what a political scientist does, right? They'll say, I can define this entire Islamic, empire of Iran, whatever it is, it's a modern state by these events. And that might not be right. Maybe we have to look at culture, right? We have to look at like, what Farsi is doing. The language of Farsi is sort of interesting. What's up, Mr. Robert Switzer? Let's see, am I going to be... thank you for the question, sir. Thanks for joining. Yeah, I could. I actually have the book here. I wasn't planning on doing it today because I'm a slow reader. That is probably why. Just That's probably why I didn't, like, actually after my bachelor's go on to graduate school, because I really wanted to do that kind of stuff, but I struggled a lot in undergrad, because as you can see, this was like one of like 10 books in one of like the actual political science classes I took, and I was really interested in like the history of thought, right? You know, poor Duck. Oh, your buddy Duck. You got to remember him. You know, maybe just a little bit off in the head, a little bit of ADHD, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And yeah, so you know, I'm not saying feel sympathy for me at all. But yeah, I would love to go through this, but I have to go through and find all these sticky notes. I have to read it. I have to see, you know, these are easy. This is maybe one of the reasons why I liked Democracy in America and Rousseau, John Locke, because you can open those books and just flip to a page and I'm just gonna randomly. That's a sticky note page. This is a non sticky note page. And we already have something interesting about American culture. So this is Alexis de Tocqueville in Democracy in America, making a tiny argument or a tiny observation. Completely random page. It must not be imagined, this is ADT now, it must not be imagined that the piety of the Puritans, so northwestern or northeastern United States, to a large extent, it must not be imagined that the piety of the Puritans was merely speculative, or that it took no cognizance of the course of worldly affairs. Puritanism, as I've already remarked, was scarcely less a political than a religious doctrine. No sooner had immigrants landed on the barren coast described by Nathaniel Morton than it was their first care to constitute a society by subscribing the following act. This is the Puritans starting a society. In the name of God, amen. We choose, we whose names are underwritten, the loyal subjects of our dread sovereign, Lord King James, having undertaken for the glory of God and the advancement of the Christian faith and the honor of the king and country a voyage to plant the first colony in the northern parts of Virginia. Do by these present solemnly and mutually in the presence of God and one another, covenant and combine ourselves together into a civil body politic. That's very political. You're not only saying God wanted you to do it, you're saying we had to show each other we're doing it. We also had to say this is a body politic, right? You can argue us about God, you can argue which one of us wanted to do this, but at the end of the day, my friends, this is a political thing we're doing. The Puritans. And for a better ordering and preservation, the furtherance of the ends aforesaid by the virtue hereof do enact, constitute, and frame such just and equal laws, ordinances, acts, constitutions, and offices, from time to time, as shall be thought most meet and convenient for the general good of the colony, unto which we promise all due submission and obedience. And so this is really interesting. If you wanted more Alexis de Tocqueville and Democracy in America, you've got this French guy coming to the US saying, guys, cut the shit, right? I mean, that's how I read this. Cut the shit. You send, MF in, you send MF Doom, frickin', Ben Franklin and all these other, hooligans, these degenerates. You send these people to come to the United States, to Europe, and talk about, oh, well, we just want to trade with you, no big deal, we just want to trade with you. We can honestly explain how, when you talk to Britain and you talk to us, this is totally different. Your buddy, the United States, we don't know anything. I'm gonna plead the fifth on this. When we go to Europe and we talk to you, we don't know a single goddamn thing. No offense. Mea culpa to, for Lord's name in vain for some folks. But yeah, you're talking about people who say, well, our body politic, we meet regularly, we have set aims, set goals, we have this covered. You don't need to send someone, but also we're not being threatening. We're just, we're Puritan colonizing settlers. We're settlers, guys. We're just gonna settle things a little bit. Very confusing, especially for liberals, right? Like, you hear this story and it's like, well, some like backwater hick who maybe had like a good mind for economics and society, like a lot about like their own families and stuff like that, really good stuff. But honestly, like maybe a sort of no one in Europe or whatever. It's funny because like, was that guy, that sort of normal dude, was he like George Washington, where George Washington is like unapologetically like, I'm not gonna do this president thing forever. We are not recreating a monarchy. We are also, if we have our, our we have our sway, or our mores are upheld, or I don't know what word I'm saying, but we're not going to do a confederate system either. Like, we're doing a federal, we're going to do federated states. We're going to do democracy. We're a federation. We're federal. We're federalized. You're going to be federally fucked if you disagree. And then you have the Puritans, right? Just normal dudes. So that's Alexis de Tocqueville, right? This happened in 1820, and from that time forwards, the immigration went on. Religious and political passions, which ravaged the British Empire during the whole reign of Charles I, drove fresh crowds of sectarians every year to the shores of America. And this is, just for context of Alexis de Tocqueville too, this is the first chapter, so this is the origins of the Anglo-Americans. I don't know if this is gonna pull up, but you can see we haven't really started, and so this is really interesting. This is, in some sense, this is like what modern academics do, like yeah, when we're talking about like, is Alexis de Tocqueville a sociologist? Is he actual a social scientist? This sounds a lot like, some of what he probably learned from like Herodotus and Greek history. Going back, having some sources, if you've got a source, that's good. If you don't, you tell this little narrative and that just gets us over the hill. And so, I later on, when I think it's chapter 3, and then he's got specific chapters on religion and stuff in this thing. But yeah, those little tiny passages you can just expand and they blow up, right? So that is democracy in America. Those Arizona types usually are. Yeah, I did go to ASU. ASU's cool. It's a huge campus. It is, I'm trying to remember. It isn't a mile. It is about, but it is it might be if you stretch out like the farthest buildings on ASU's main Tempe campus, but it is like actually a half mile. Like, it's a half mile campus. So 4 blocks, 4 like standard city blocks. And then going down the other way, it is, I would say, maybe like somewhere between 2 and 3 blocks. So I when I was in college, I did my classes all funny. I worked. I wanted to work, and I didn't want to go to school every day, even though I loved college. And so I scheduled Tuesday, Thursday classes. I had one, this was like a funny ASU thing, especially in the summer. At ASU, I had one class that was it was the furthest most. It was like by the Barrett. It was inside the Barrett Honors dorms, and the other class that I had was all the way at, if anyone's from ASU, it was at the Fulton School, all the way on the other side of whatever it was, like fucking 6th Street or something. I don't remember what street, but it was like on the other. It was by like Mill Avenue, basically. It was off Mill Avenue. So I had to walk all the way from, like where I forgot what the people at ASU navigated by which bars were right there. Um, yeah, U of A is cool. One of my buddies, I spent some time in Tucson. Not as much as an undergraduate, but one of my buddies went there for grad school. And so we would, for like birthdays and stuff, we would drive down and go drinking and stuff like that. U of A is very cool. Yeah, U of A is a cool place. Yeah, it's cool. You've got the Koch brothers fund a lot of philosophy down at U of A, which is cool. This is, I don't know. It's Tucson, right? Tucson's really beautiful by the foothills and stuff like that, but like I didn't like driving in Tucson. I don't know. I don't want to complain on the internet, but just is what it is. But yeah, like I was saying, I want to do some Reddit stuff. We're gonna do some Reddit stuff now. That was the whole point of the stream was, when we go to like some of the smart subreddits, like half the time we're the ones laying down the law. The other half of the time, people are saying things that I don't understand. And so, the sort of way I was thinking about it was like, oh, how long can you hang? How long can you hang? And so we're gonna go to the metaphysics subreddit and whatever it's called, metaphysics subreddit and IR studies. I just wanted to do a couple questions, right? Nothing like super serious. This freaking chat window. I have a chat window on my screen, which is just really annoying. I don't know how to get it away, but here we are. I just have to like fucking click every link and stuff. Let's see. I'm not the browser. I also just wanted to show you how the browser window isn't that good here, so I'm gonna screenshot some stuff. But this is the first place we're gonna go. Bam. Let's see. Maybe I'll just add all the different ones I want to go to. Why didn't we save? Okay. So these are like my nerd out spots when I want to go learn something. Let me get rid of this. Metaphysics is really interesting because they have, some of the people there are like really well read. They have PhD tags and stuff. So if you're good at philosophy, it's a fun place to go. I think as we'll see, which I'm pretty sure we are because I kind of checked some of the content that was posted. There's both good stuff. There's curious people. There's curious people doing curious things. And so that's kind of the point, I think, of like if you go to something like metaphysics, which is something you can get a PhD in. you can get grant funding for a sabbatical or something. You can get tenure as a professor. You can write a book and you can be a columnist for the New York Times. If you study metaphysics, right? It is fun. It can be lighthearted. It can be something you do over a glass of wine, over a beer. But it's also something that some people take seriously. And so when we're talking about like a surviving Reddit sesh, I kind of want to see if you get like that tidal wave, like that boom, that are we gonna have some of those like sort of like those hype answers, hype questions, or are we gonna see people who they got their board shorts from like PacSun? You go on like Alibaba or like eBay or something, it's like I got my towel, SoCal Duck, I got my towel, my sunscreen, I got the little like the kind of mini Bluetooth music player. I'm gonna go to the beach and just casually do some metaphysics. No problem, bro. But if you didn't check on some stuff, You know, some people might not like that, like sort of like smart, the brain stuff. But we're just gonna see what people think and say, and kind of go through that. The other one we're gonna do. This is the other one. Whoops, that's not right. I would love to just do this too, just while I'm clipping some stuff. I would love to do this for like the next week, like no offense, but like next week or next month, you know, just kind of see what I can learn, see, because a lot of times I go on Reddit and I read stuff and I don't even know that I didn't know something. And so that's one of the reasons why I do like Reddit, is because, yeah, I can read something and think I understand it, and I actually don't. And so IR studies, this is the one that I'm, I think is really interesting, because when we're talking about stuff that like might impact us going to war or something else, that one is always, it's always fascinating, right? It's always really interesting. And so, let's go see. I'm gonna clip some questions, and you know, I'm probably gonna make myself smaller or whatever. I'm gonna leave this here because I have a sad, small, miserable channel. Cool people. My 85 subscribers are all amazing people. They're not technically mine. They belong to YouTube. But yeah, if you have a chance to like the stream, subscribe, stop by, say hi. If you want to talk about something, I've got books here. So like Robert. Huge shout out to Mr. Robert. You know, I've got Democracy in America. I've got Jeremy Rifkin's Empathic Civilization here. Got Daniel Kahneman, Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow, and I've got some book on Shay. So we can just flip through some stuff if you guys want to do that. Duck flipping through books or whatever. Yeah, but come say hi. And then yeah, I'm just gonna pull some of this stuff over, and I'm gonna clip some questions, and we'll see what we can do with it. Let's do metaphysics. We're gonna do metaphysics first. So that's what I planned out in my head when I woke up this morning. Do. Should we do different music too? No, we're gonna leave Midwest emo on. We're gonna leave my emo music on while we're cruising through this. And I don't have a good way to navigate the browser, but I am gonna clip stuff just so you guys can see we are live here. This is a live browser window. It just does not navigate, which is funny. Yeah, it doesn't. I don't have a way to scroll on this thing, which is really, really annoying. It's sort of stupid, but I can like click stuff. I don't want to do stuff that I don't know about, so, whoops. I sort of do. That's the scary part of Reddit, right? And I'm sort of the same way. Hey, what up, Vibe? Good to see you too, brother. Let's go. Yeah, so, you know, with like metaphysics and stuff and IR theory, when I see something I don't know, it's like, oh, you know, I'm just gonna go read what people have to say and see if something's interesting, right? If there's something I can sort of pick at a little bit and like go pick it up and get underneath it. Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, I definitely, right now I'm Robert, so right now I'm on freaking OBS Studio. I don't have this set up to feed like a StreamYard or anything, so I'm not gonna do it today. But yeah, you know, if it would be cool, especially, I know there's folks that have some libertarian sort of, some people have like ANCAP ideas, like deeply held philosophies and stuff like that too. That would be fun to like get into. And so yeah, it would be cool to just kind of like mess around a little bit and see how it goes. But yeah, like either if you guys want to do it here, I could definitely launch a StreamYard. Oh, what up, Jeet? What up, Jeet? Robert and Vibe, Jeet. One of my main mans. He's one of my Discord friends. Good to see you, brother. But yeah, it would be cool if you guys want to either have conversations or debates or something. I mean, you say intellectual stuff. Yeah, I'd be happy to host a StreamYard here, and anyone can restream it. Or we can do whatever it's called. If you guys want to do like something on your own channels, if you already have an idea for that, like just hit me up on Discord or whatever, and we'll figure that out. Cool. But yeah, let me go. I'm gonna pull. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go to the metaphysics subreddit. I don't know if I'm gonna take this thread here. I saw one that I wanted to roast a little bit, and and this is just maybe as a slight confidence builder, something I'm familiar with. And then as we get into some of the other questions, I know there's going to be people talking on IR studies about stuff that's way deeper than what I know about. Love you too, mate. Good to see you. And so, yeah, so let me go just do this one slight confidence builder thing. And mea culpas for like honest intellectuals just kind of going with the flow on something. Like, I know that can come out of left field for some people. Where, like a lot of times, Robert was asking about democracy in America earlier. And so what happened there is I flipped to a random page, and we had a great small conversation from that random page flip. I purposely avoided something I had already done to sort of show that Alexis de Tocqueville is a solid writer. So I'm gonna go through, and the thing I planned to do was I had one thread on metaphysics. I was planning to just sort of look at, like correctly sort of understand what the poster is saying. And we can, we can go from there. I hope everyone here is okay with that. So let me go grab a screenshot of this one. And this was the point of this was I wanted to create an argument and a position that shows what I think Reddit is like. Yeah, and so this is just like the stuff that you normally see on Reddit, right? Let me add. This is Reddit question number 1 of the surviving Reddit. Let me get rid of some of this stuff. Let's see this. Activities. Let's go. Get this to the bottom right. I don't know. The bottom right. And yeah, and so what kind of system could behave like our universe? So let's go through together, and let me see. Agenda here is understand the user's question, the philosophical terminology, and review, read answers, add our own BS. Let's see, Robert says, I'm down for the Hobbes lock through Trump thing. You suggested, but it's more of a conversation, less of a debate. Still cool. Yeah, that's interesting. That's sort of come up on a couple, I know a lot of folks in the Crucible network, and, a lot of the people supporting the Crucible, they talk about like force doctrine and stuff like this, which people tend to think implies sort of Hobbes' lock. And so like Robert, I think like both deconstructing that as well as building that point for them a little bit, you know, this is something Jeet and I actually do quite a bit, you know, when we're in the Pangburn universe, and on Jeet's got his own channel as well. Jeet's got his own channel, his own show. I think it's actually one of the more fun and interesting live streams. I've been to a couple of them. You know, it's weird that, you know, I wish the YouTube algorithm gave them a little more traction for that stuff instead of, you know, like animal pictures and whatever it is. But yeah, like, you know, so, but yeah, it's interesting to sort of think from my perspective, you know, since I'm the star of this show, I would just say it's like, yeah, you know, force doctrine is complete bullshit. But on the other side of it, it's like, well, what's the actual point? Like, are you guys getting to a point where there's some unavoidable fact about reality or the universe, where, you know, Hobbes and Locke, you know, we have to have this theory of natural rights or have to have this theory of limited individualism to understand kind of why Trump and why the America's behaving a certain way? That would be something that's really fun to do. But yeah, definitely, you know, Jeet, if you want to, you know, if for anyone here, I mean, if you're promoting your stuff, I'm promoting Jeet a little bit. So Jeet, if you want to share your YouTube link in the chat, just, I mean, there's not a ton of people here, but Jeet is a cool person. So I'm going to, yeah, Jeet, I don't have access because I'm very lazy and I'm live streaming right now. So if you want to share your link, like, I would encourage it and invite you to go do that. But yeah, please do. You know, I picked up 3 or 4 subs just, you know, like, I picked up like 15 subs in the last like 3 days, just being on panels, sharing my link, meeting kind of cool like-minded people. I don't know if Vibes Coding are working right now. I checked out your LinkedIn, your company's LinkedIn page. By the way, I'm not going to dox you, but it was on your website. But like, yeah, you know, Robert's one of the cool like-minded folks. There's a bunch of people over on like Sarah Tomato's channel, you know, that kind of stuff. I'm gonna take a breath, dude. I had coffee, and usually at this time I'm running, and you can just see how sort of like I just bounced from topic to topic, dude. I think I don't need like a scene change. Maybe I do. I'm gonna do a very short reset. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a couple deep breaths. We're gonna roll the transition credits. And when we get back into it, we're gonna be ready to do some Reddit stuff. Cue the transition. Alright, a short meditation for vibe. Churn reduction strategies can both be proactive and product driven. Small fixes can provide long-term change. For Robert, most people don't see the government when they're driving to go fill up their gas tank or go to the grocery store. For Jeet, the only thing I have for Jeet is that costume glasses and clinical glasses, meaning you've been prescribed them, where the lenses were prescribed. The frames obviously were not prescribed. Are a great prop for YouTube. Are they a crutch? you know, I think they're a crutch after 5,000 subscribers. I think they're a crutch when you're not able to make content for 10 subscribers. I think if you are talented or passionate or you know, and the internet has a place for you, paradoxically, for it's like my fucking dad is here. You know, but yeah, you know, if you know, I think on YouTube, if you are talented enough and the audience wants you to be making content, stuff like glasses, hats, filters on your video, these weird elements and stuff, you know, being able to sort of like, you know, if you have a studio environment, being able to move stuff around a little bit, you know, finding a better way to focus on sort of the content and stuff like this. This stuff is helpful. It's not really a crutch. It sort of is, but you know, not everyone is Sarah Tomato. Not everyone is that good on camera. You know, and so we all do what we can and what we have to do. Not everyone is Travis Pangburn. Not everyone has a channel of 200,000 subscribers and is confident to go live, even on a mobile screen, right? You know, you get 700 angry Trump fans yelling at you in chat, or you know, you invite some of the smartest, sharpest, loudest, most annoying firebrands on the internet to come argue. Like, you tell them we're going to argue and debate and blood sport, and you're moderating that. So I have a lot of respect for those people. Thank you, Jeet. There's, you know, honestly, because, you know, you and I were both discerned gentlemen. Like, the thing I realized was that, like, if I just put out, you know, I think about something, I do it deliberately, I allow sort of something to sort of go to it, and then I just put out something that I think is a little bit shitty, and just let it sit, right? Like, that was, you know, kind of going from my first, like, 10 videos to being able to, like, do a live stream. Obviously, it's not, like, you know, it's not, like, winning or great, but it, you know, I'm comfortable doing it. I don't feel like I'm wasting all of Google's, like, fucking hard drive space. Like, that, you know, you know, I saw fucking, I don't know if you guys know Grumple from the, he goes on Tomatoes panel. He's been on, I think he's been on Dusty's. He's got his own show and channel, but he did a karaoke live stream and he just didn't turn it off the other day. He's got like a, you know, he's a YouTuber that can say, I have a 36-hour video. I just didn't turn off my live stream. I've got a 36-hour video on YouTube. Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah, I'll download that software and have, you know, 24 hours, you know, vibe. I don't know, you could have either like Ayn Rand or Milton Friedman or like fucking, you know, like, what's his name? Jack Welch. You could just have 24 hours of Jack Welch. And Anson's here. Oh my god. What up? What up, chairman of the board? We are not talking, I see Anson and I instantly think we're gonna, like, we're gonna move to ball talk or something like that. Yeah, we're gonna, so, you're a smart dude. Let's go. Alright, so since we have Anson here, we've got a few people joining me. I'm not going to talk about spurging content out for that much longer. Journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Just cut what isn't essential first, Robert. That's what I would say. Everything that isn't essential eventually falls away, and then what is the self after this? Let me one-up you. Let me one-up you. This is my stream after all, buddy guy. This is Duck's stream, buddy. Yeah, I thought about that. Duck wasn't here. If I didn't have social links and I couldn't rope in the, you know, I couldn't rope in some of the folks from wherever it is, ACD or, or Sarah's channel, wherever it is, you know, Kyle's friends. Okay, let's go back to roasting Reddit. I don't know how many people are here, but in case there's people that are not my acquaintances, close friends, you know,
ACD
people that
or-
we might collaborate with, whatever that is. I just want to go back and do some of the Reddit roasting stuff. So this was the first one I wanted to do, metaphysics. I wanted to go through and pick this one apart. We can read most of it here. And so this is surviving Reddit. Let's see. I think we're going to be doing some thrashing and bashing here. Yeah. Let's just see how this goes. So this user, I don't want to dox him. I should have covered that up, but yeah, you know, this Reddit user says, what kind of system could behave like our universe? So what kind of system could behave like our universe? And because, you know, the format of this is we want to understand what the user is asking. We want to understand what the user thinks is the best evidence, or if they're providing an answer or just asking for one. So we're gonna start. We're gonna start with that one, which is to say that, yeah, we unapologetically want to put our ideas out here. That's just sort of the modus operandi, but we need to understand what this guy's like first, and we want to see if anyone's going to sort of ultimately take us down a notch. Let's see if this user can accomplish that for us. So what kind of system could behave like our universe? Okay, our universe is a most special system. Okay, so that's the first line. No, it isn't. Not necessarily so, okay? The most distinctive feature, maybe it is, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. The most distinctive feature is that according to science, so we're reading this backwards, right to left. So the most distinctive feature is that in a philosophy language context, from science, the most distinctive feature is that and science is actually taking this whole next sentence and looping it back to what the user is saying, which is there's a most distinctive feature. Whatever. Not, you know, maybe not on Fridays, but fucking Mondays and Tuesdays or something. You know, we read like this. And it says, its life path began in a low entropy initial state, very homogeneous early universe. And from the state, the universe continues its life as it gradually moves. So continues. So science is saying all this. From the state, the universe continues its life as it gradually moves towards a state of higher and higher entropy until the end of its life. Of course, it reaches a state of maximum entropy. Okay. So are you trying to reverse engineer the intangible aspects of the universe? Me? Yes, I absolutely am. I will tell you, there are two things that matter in life. My favorite orange highlighter is the first thing that matters the most in my life, and I hope all of you see that this is always going to be true. Yeah, so I personally do like the evil genius stuff. I've got audacious theories of everything. I think this guy's trying to re-engineer what science says. You know, because let's read this all together. This first paragraph one more time, because this is the surviving Reddit sesh. So, if you're not surviving Reddit with me, you're surviving duck. If you're with me on this, then you're surviving Reddit with me. Either because this makes no fucking sense, or maybe it does. So our universe is a most special system. Its most distinctive feature is that, according to science, its life path began in a low entropy initial state. From this state, the universe continues its life as it gradually moves towards a state of higher and higher entropy, until at the end of its life course it reaches a state of maximum entropy. So we can do the charitable and the not charitable reading of just this first paragraph. The not charitable reading is our universe is a most special system. It's a fucking normative claim. That doesn't mean anything, right? Are you actually talking about the universe where we see a star and this is phenomenal and that actually reduces down into particles and shit, right? not, you know, nominalism. We might talk about that in a little bit, but that doesn't fucking mean anything. It doesn't mean shit. Its most distinctive feature is that what the fuck is a most distinctive feature, dude? That doesn't fucking mean anything either. This is what like a PhD advisor would probably tell you too. Like, you know, if you write like this, you know, you need to cite someone else notable who said this. You probably, you know, like, this is maybe an interesting question. This is where like this guy is like, without knowing it, he's surviving Reddit. You know, we're 2 sentences, we're like 15 words in, and it's no, it isn't, no, it isn't, no, it isn't. That's not true. What the fuck are you saying? This is like what, you know, if you wanted to write a paper on this, you might write about like the phenomenology or, you know, this historical scientific tradition of mystery in the universe. You know, and this would be cool, right? You know, because like, yeah, like Anson is saying Reddit sucks. Part of the reason Reddit sucks is because I'm doing this right now. Like, I'm talking like this right now. You know, you missed the intro too. I was also saying that what Reddit does, which is cool, because you know, Vibe might appreciate this. I don't know if Vibon's still here, but like what Reddit does is if you have 1,000 people commenting, it floats up the one person who is the most interesting, the most funny, or the most unique. Someone who says something you've never heard, someone who says the funniest thing you've ever seen, someone who says the most interesting thing, and the person who is the most knowledgeable should be in that same category, right? They are in places like metaphysics sometimes, but not always. Not always. It's screaming to the void. Reddit definitely fucking sucks. I personally hate like Ask Reddit. I hate like the, you know, there's like men's red pill subreddits. I've seen them on my algorithm. I hate those. No offense to Reddit. I hate like the funny pictures and videos. It's like, you know, like Reddit should know that I'm a 35-year-old man, and maybe I do want content. I want videos and pictures, but I don't fucking, like, not that bad, dude. I don't want to sit through that shit. I don't want to sit through any of that stuff. Like, no offense. No offense. But yeah, you know, this is like, you know, Reddit sucks. What this guy's basically saying is like, yeah, you know, someone from like a continental tradition or from a, you know, some other tradition should write a paper about why science is so interesting. Like, science says all these really interesting things about the universe. Is there any philosophical grounding to the intuition that the universe is a special system? This guy maybe doesn't know that you can use intuition as evidence, or that we have intuition, and that's a philosophical concept as well. It has to be. So if our universe, I'm gonna write this out for chat. Okay. And so we're not doing this on Reddit just because out of respect. If our universe is most special, and if our universe has a most distinctive feature, these absolutely sound like intuitions versus empirical or objective or physically based or representational. So this is our first boom roasted, and it's one paragraph in. So we're basically, you know, I don't know if this is because we didn't read the whole thing, and with this guy's language, because he's using language like all of us, which is an important thing to just know. That's getting a little too deep, I think, for this stream. But like, you know, with just this intro, the idea that he is introducing to us, you know, we know that he's. What we can say is that, you know, if I talk to Bernardo Kastrup, if I talk to Sam Harris or Matt Dillahunty, you know, these really famous people, you know, if I was trying to use my philosophy brain on a, you know, perhaps an NSFW subreddit or something, you know, these are like like these are things that I could sound reasonable in a documentary. They sound reasonable to try and like introduce science communication. In terms of like a metaphysics or someone tagging this cosmology, talking about the history of the universe, these are just intuitions, right? So I can say, well, you're talking about intuitions without saying what you're talking about, and so your idea is going to be fucking stupid, dude. Your idea's not going to be very good. And this is sort of like what Matt Dillahunty does do. This is what Dan Dennett, rest in peace, did a lot, is that he just said, well, no, that's not true. That's not true. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. That's not true. And so, this is our first sort of throwdown is, just replacing some of these ideas. Our universe is a most special system. Well, what we actually call our universe, if we listen to Sean Carroll, if we take the equation of a Hamiltonian and the wave function to be some sort of indicator of reality, our universe isn't that. It isn't. It's cool because we perceive it and subjectively say our universe is special. So that's very valid. That's a very valid approach. But in terms of having this be a claim about the nature of reality, our universe might be 1 billionth or 1 trillionth or 1 Google. It might be like one of very many universes like ours. So it's not a special system. It might not be a special system, right? Like even the things we want to say, like it from a philosophy perspective, especially I think like a little more of an Eastern perspective, very modern physics approach as well. Saying stuff like a Goldilocks zone, saying stuff like, well, our universe is cool because it showed us that we have a Big Bang. A universe can exist. We can conceive of a possible world, deep philosophy where we can, like, can I have knowledge or possibly have knowledge that there's a universe that exists in some world without a Big Bang, and I still see everything else like it is here? Maybe that's actually more special, right? We don't have a universe that tells us to go on this endless, kind of this, Jackie 2 times, I gotta tell you something. Frankie called me up on his phone, and he said, hey, don't tell Jackie 2 times this. I'm gonna tell you anyways, though. But, Dirty Frankie called me up and he said, that rat fuck motherfucker sent me on a fucking, this. He sent me on a chase down to, to go find what the physics of the universe were. Dirty Frankie, I'm just telling you, I'm done with it. I learned the derivations. I don't know why I sound like Bernie Sanders a little bit. I found the proof. The American people are done funding the scientific institution, but not because we're anti-science, because we are anti, I don't even know, whatever it is. So that's like another possible explanation of this. If there's moral intuition, just again, just to call out in the first paragraph, bros, let's go. In the first paragraph, Bro went on frickin' Reddit. He had a really, I don't know, great idea, bad idea. Some part of him must have been wanting to share what he thinks, and that's awesome. That's very cool. He was curious. I think this guy does, he's a little too perspectived, a little not quite agnostic enough from my perspective. But he goes on, and we have 2 explanations of the universe being a special system. Just this first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have 2 explanations of the first 7 words. One explanation is this guy's intuition. Another explanation is people have to have this intuition, and there's a reason why we call the universe special. It has to be that way. So individual, it's a generalized thing, so it's somehow it's external, or we have to relate this way, or it's just not true. There's possibly justifiable reasons we say it's not true. we could just be agnostic or nihilistic about something like this, saying, well, there's a most special system. I don't give a shit. I just don't care. I do care. I do care. So let me go see what science has to say. So, this is the one part I think this guy got right. No offense to this user, but the one thing that I would agree with is he's saying, well, let's go see what science says. I said, okay, well, if I'm agnostic or nihilistic about something, my own modus operandi is I want to go for a run. I want to go, I just want to shut my stream down for the day. I want to go for a run. And I want to go think about it, right? Or I want to go write something. I'm gonna go blast something out on Medium, or just keep it in Google Drive. I've got my like Charlie Day. I've got like my notepad, and I'm writing like this. The universe has got to be a most special place. There's got to be a most special place. Let me make it this way. Franken beans. Franken beans. Beating a dead horse. A horse isn't dead yet. Says, I don't know, Thomas Quine or something. I don't fucking know. Kit Fine says the horse isn't dead. Algorithm. Kit Fine. Who is it? Thomas Quine? TM Scanlon. Dan Dennett. Sam Harris. Neil deGrasse Tyson. Alright. Ducklings. I'm not going to call you guys ducklings. I was thinking about calling people in chat ducklings just now. Our universe is not special, so this guy's conceding. I mean, ducklings is... So people don't understand ducklings. I want to cue the intro one more time, and then we're going to, after we take a quick sort of palate cleanser, I want to talk about just this next statement. Maybe we can go through the rest of it, but let's go to a transition. That's how funny this post was to me, I guess, to all of us, is that, we could talk about this thing for 20 minutes. These 7 words we talked about for 7 minutes, and it has been so information dense that we now have to I have to show you guys my personal brand. Cue the transition, cue the palate cleanser, guys. Okay, your buddy Duck isn't that gangster, but he's not gang. Did you guys have... We don't have audio. Did you guys hear me talking at all on that page with on the page where I had my Daddy Warbucks stuff up? We'll just stay here. Brand consistency. Should we do this other one? Sorry, I'm really fucking up right now. Okay, I'm really messing up right now. No, you went silent. Okay, I didn't add audio to that screen. That's the downside of OBS Studio. I know a lot of people are already familiar, and they're not telling anyone, which is that's cool. No worries. Your buddy Duck will figure it out, but you have to configure audio and video on every scene you have. But then it's one click, like you saw. Silent again. Audio mixer. Shouldn't be. Okay. We're just gonna stay here. I've lost all of my confidence. I hate it. It's the worst, but whatever. Yeah, no big deal. No big deal, Jeet. Thank you for sticking around. Yeah, so I just wanted to cover, so if you check out if anyone's new and joined the stream, if you see, we're tackling this question. We've come up with two different possible explanations for this question this Redditor had. It's a very smart question, a very hard question. They bit off a lot. And so we have two explanations for what I see as an incoherent, or perhaps, it's not a sound way to approach the question of our universe is a most special system. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the science here. Let's do this too. We're gonna mix up the music just a wee bit. You guys should hear we have a new trap style beat that's playing. I don't know if you guys like this. Let's go. Let's go, fam. Let's go. Alright then. Alright, well, if I have to unpack this science documentary stuff, not caring too much about who I look like, I think we're gonna go ahead and do it then. Just go ahead and do it then, mate. You guys liking the bad duck impressions, bad duck accents? I don't know. You guys like it or don't, but we are. Have I tried Streamlabs? Who is it? I went on Streamlabs with frickin' Grid One. I haven't used them myself. If they don't have I don't want the watermark. I know that's really pretentious of me, but I don't want to pay. I don't want to pay. I don't want to pay right away. I don't mind paying for premium features. If I'd more income coming in or something, more than I have now, I would pay for it, and I happily support businesses like that. I buy Vibe. I'll tell you this. I had, when I was in SAS, I had my own little tech toolkit. I probably had 10, 15 tools that were, just stuff the company didn't have it in our ecosystem, but I, your buddy Duck, as it turns out, was kind of a gangster with operations and stuff. And so I was really, no watermark, no pay. Yeah, hell yeah. And so, I would go out and I would find technology, and, the two ways of saying it is, I would always promote that stuff to my team. I would tell people go sit on demos, or I would tell people set up your own dashboards, right? Set up your own playbooks. God damn it, go do your own thing. And I will be the one to tell you when there's one metric that we're not hitting, when there's one maybe an analytic or something, or an event thing or something like that, and so I honestly think 3 to 6 months out of the year in my professional career could be and since taking over on the Reddit roast, that's funny. That's how it works. Yeah, 3 to 6 months out of the year, I could spend tuning my operations platform. No bullshit. And the other perspective is I don't know. I was just gonna say that. Anyways. Okay, so science doesn't talk about a most distinctive feature. That's not a thing in science. We're gonna join Anson on this, Mr. Chairman and the board. Also, anyone still, I'll put this out there. Anyone else in chat, if you want to blast your channel out in the chat, good people here, people active on panels, people active following their subscriptions a little bit, people interested in sort of the intellectual sphere, philosophy of religion, that kind of stuff. It's all good. It's all good, man. Oh, what up? Abe's here too. Yeah. Here, let me do something for you guys. This is, if you're in the United States, which I think all of us are. That's the Chinese dragon saying support your US-based global tech vendors. Okay, I want to spend like just 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, because we got a couple new people in the audience. So shout out Abe, anyone else who's just joining, and I want to cover this second part. Apparently, we're not going to get to the totality of what this guy is asking, which is sometimes how Reddit works. That's how I would probably, if I had time and I was going through and answering Reddit questions, that's how I would respond to this, is that I can't answer your question. It's not coherent, or it's just not good enough. It's not close enough to metaphysics, but here's why. Here, let me help you with this. And let's see what Anson said. Whoever wrote this is conflating their understanding of the universe with the actual mechanics of the universe. I mean, that's dead on, right? It's a disgusting self-centered projection of their limited knowledge onto the unknown. Yeah, so that first part that Anson said that's really good, right? Duck's digital daytime, the digital daycare component here, it's not metaphysics to talk about the science of the universe, which is a good point. It's a great point. And whoever wrote this is conflating their understanding of the universe. Yeah, this was one of the things we wanted to pick apart, differentiating intuition or differentiating what they think corresponds with reality. So, Anson might have a slightly different take than I do, chairman of the board. Who knows? I would just say, well, what Anson might be saying here is something like, if we expanded on this part, and I were to walk through step by step on this sort of criticism, whoever wrote this is conflating their understanding of the universe with the actual mechanisms of the universe. What this is sort of like saying is if you're a kid, I've got my glasses here, and when I, maybe you see this on a video screen, but when this drops, if you don't have object permanence, you're going to just think that thing doesn't exist anymore. But we know that's not what the universe is like. We have really good reason to believe the universe isn't like this, where if I'm showing you something and it moves out of frame, I can't perceive it, it doesn't disappear. Adults use this to navigate the world every day, so congratulations. Yeah, and so, just kind of, and so we could say that, well, this person's doing the same thing. The same type of error of not having object permanence is like thinking that, well, if I believe I work really hard at work, I'm gonna go make, I'm gonna make $200,000 one year, or I'm gonna make, $1 million like a CEO if I work as hard as that CEO. We know that's a faulty that's not an intuitional thing. That's actually thinking about the problem, and you got it wrong. Nice try. You did really great, but you thought about it. You tried. You didn't try hard enough. You guys didn't. You didn't try the correct ways. You tried some of the right things, but when you should have tried that thing and seen that it didn't work, you should have opened up the books. You should have thought about it differently. You could have, gotten more experience and then figured out an answer or something. So that's a cognitive error. Kind of losing the thread, but yeah, just real quick, I'm gonna comment on the science stuff, and then I want to pull up one IR question because it was really good. Yeah, we cope our understanding. I agree with everything Anson just said there. Yeah, systems are a descriptive tool, so not metaphysics. That's one of the things all of the moderators on metaphysics say a lot. They say this isn't metaphysics, this is science. But just because we're on YouTube and not metaphysics, I want to comment on the science stuff very quickly. According to science, its life path began in a low entropy initial state. That's not a true thing. There's no such thing as a life path, so what are you talking about? That is what science actually says. There's not another way for you to write that or interpret that. A life path isn't a thing. And so, yeah, if science tells you what the condition or the state of the universe was like, what possible states you could observe in the first few seconds, yeah, it was completely homogeneous. Basically, it was the most homogeneous form of matter you could imagine. It was too homogeneous in the first, the very first, even smaller than picoseconds. Too homogeneous to have particles, too homogeneous to have atoms for sure, too homogeneous to have like recognizable quarks. It was very homogeneous. So that isn't a life path, and a low entropy initial state actually means something. And so just making sure, this Redditor or whatever, oh, Ryan's here, what up, Ryan? Just making sure this Redditor, when they're talking about science and saying what a low entropy initial state is, those things have they have qualifiers, quantifiers, mostly quantifiers, but qualifiers, if you're going to do that, actually say them. Don't say what a life, there's no such fucking thing as a life path. Congratulations. And from the state, does that mean anything? Again, if we're talking about physics, we're talking about actual science, because he himself says, according to science, we have a from this state. Right? Put that story together. Absolutely, bro. Like Anson said, I don't, like Chairman said, I don't believe that is what this guy is doing. I think what this guy is doing is sharing his own worldview in a very quickly, poorly written philosophy post. If it's a philosophy post, it's horribly written, right? If you just flip it around and you say, well, this is his personal vlog or something, here, wait, do I have I wish I had a coffee cup. Yeah, I got something for this. I have this little clay pot here. So this is what this guy's like, this isn't a coffee cup, but this guy's like, I'm gonna go write on my personal vlog about the universe, I'm gonna rattle my cup at you a little bit, and, tell me what you think. I've got to talk about the life force. I don't know what this isn't really an impression. Maybe, yeah, he's Hollywood directoring, right? If someone says, I don't know this guy, I hate this stuff, but I'm always afraid about people generally doing that. Like, I got the life force, I got all the life force in the world we need, baby doll. There it is. I got all the life force in the world I need, baby doll. I got all the science terms I need in the world, baby doll. Do you know what the world is like? It can be a cold place without a guy like me. As rich as I am. All the knowledge in the world. You need something a little to thicken it up. You need a little of the hair of the dog. I got science words, I can talk entropy. I got the rich man stuff. I've got the only descriptions of this special magical universe that I can sell you all the snake oil you'll ever need. You'll ever need. You know who Chris Langan is? Have you heard of Stephen Hawking? Who do you think actually gets it right? Who do you think got it right? I'll tell you who got it right. It's me! Me! It's me! I think that's like Christopher Nolan's Batman. Yeah, fake cosmology Batman coming in from left field, bro. Let's do the rest of this statement really quickly. And so, universe, it gradually, so from this state, so I don't know what from this state means. We see a specific path of evolving, which might not be the only state it can reach, right? It's conceivable, and science doesn't tell us that we have like a lifespan of our universe like we commonly think of it. It might be that I wake up in a totally different world with different physics, a different history. it could be that that happens all the time actually, right? So that doesn't, there's not a from this state that occurs in the Big Bang Theory. There's not like a from this state. It's an easy way to think about it. But if you're talking about like a mathematical or system construct, I would push back. I'd be curious what like if anyone, anyone in chat, if you're new, welcome. Please drop a like and subscribe. Trying to grow the channel for stuff like this, but like I would love to hear what an actual physicist has to say about this. From my perspective, like I don't think there's a from the state. I don't think they're talking about, they're not naming, like, there's not like a science convention that they're actually calling upon that informs how we think the world would be, not in the sense of the nature of reality. Loosely in the scientific sense, but even in the scientific sense, why are we asked, how did we arrive at that question? What theory or theories do we have to use to get there? You have a cocktail party, you invite a field theorist, a quantum physicist, a cosmologist, and then you have like me, you have some Derridian deconstructivist saying, well, like, I'm glad you guys invited me here. Did you guys want me to roast you? And yeah, I have my little communist beret on at this time. Being a little Derridian, I talk about the exception state. Whoever the fuck that was. It was that Italian dude. Michael Foucault. This is a little crazy here, bros. I'm not gonna lie, man. I'm not gonna lie, bro. It's a little crazy here, bro. Not articulate. No, bro. It totally isn't articulate, right? No, bro. Yeah, I mean, you're gnarring the gnar. You're gonna gnar the gnar and shred the gnar on your way to doing field things, Lorentz transformations, bro. But like, if you're not actually talking about how other people, right? Other people can get from lily pad to lily pad, or like I'm saying, like surfboard to surfboard, right? You've got a corona without a lime in the top, bro. And it totally isn't just that gnar, man. I'm going a little fast. I'm going faster than you're comfortable with here, but if I'm deconstructing this, the science doesn't actually say anything about it, man. I mean, you check the weather before you go surfing, right? I mean, my buddy Dwayne didn't, and he got struck by lightning, man. They fucking took Dwayne from us, dude. You don't think that's gonna be grounding and significant? They took Dwayne, dude. Dwayne's gone, bro. He fucking owed me $15 for tacos too. I got these pork pabillas, man. I didn't need the lemonade, but Dwayne said go ahead and fucking do it. Pay me back whenever, bro. You're gonna pay me back anyway, so pay me back whenever. And later on, actually, because you think now I owe Dwayne $15, but what actually happened was afterwards Dwayne was like, well, that was, my dad's credit card. I took it without him knowing. He canceled it, and then at this point we were doing shots with some like no offense, but some like beautiful girls, and Dwayne was like, get this next round, bro. So I did, and he was gonna owe me $30. I owed him $15, and then he owed me $30. And so Dwayne. So just with Dwayne here, right? Anyways, what are we talking about? Yeah, we were roasting science theory, not being philosophical a little bit. We're talking about how accounting for that stuff, like accounting for a statement like from the state's really difficult. It's really hard. From the state, the universe continues its life. The universe doesn't have a life. The universe might not continue anything. We might only have these point objects, which really sort of are timeless in some sense, without time or agnostic towards time. To a state of higher and higher entropy. I mean, maybe things just eventually go back, like heat death, right? This is just like the very internet casual answer is like, if things just go back to heat death, and that's just whatever the entropy, the max min level of entropy in a vacuum, I think. Like it's basically like that, and then at some point you just have whatever physics are like in this is cosmology, I think, but you would have whatever physics are like when you have an entire cosmos, which is just this sort of minimum state of things appearing and outappearing, as events. So you have these little probabilities that end up sort of popping up. This is Lawrence Krauss, I believe. I'm not that familiar, so I don't want to go that deep into it, but like that's one possible explanation of like if we were being charitable and asking this question about what does it mean for the universe to have a life and what it goes to. That's one explanation. The other explanation is that it's just, well, actually in de Sitter space, on the edges of the universe is way more exciting than what we're seeing here. We don't know what those physics ultimately turn into, but this is like, actual evidence-backed, explanation number 2 a little bit is that like, well, what you see around you is eventually going to die because things die, things fall apart, right? African proverb. This is an African proverb, is that, a man sees a tree in the springtime. If he hasn't seen the tree again in the summertime and he hasn't looked at him himself, he can't say anything new about the tree. Right? When I see a tree and I look at myself, those two things reflect and, they change reflexively with each other. I can only see a tree as I can see myself, and the tree can only see me as it sees itself. So if I haven't been reflective or something, and that's kind of what this is saying, is that like, well, if I'm describing the physics of the here, and there's different physics somewhere else, those different physics, why isn't that a superior cosmological description? Why are those two necessarily compatible? And so until the end of its life course, it reaches a state of maximum entropy. Maybe, yeah, I mean, if you want to believe that we're all boiling up and there's like a god at some point, but it could just be like, the maximum entropy thing is, you describe what it's like to actually have 1,000 people running CERN and they're closely dependent on another 10,000 people outside of CERN, and those 10,000 people are deeply dependent on like, say, 100 million people. And so this is the most complex thing human beings ever do, is this little AI farm or particle accelerator, right? Like literally people talk shit about Joe Biden, even Donald Trump in this case, and like not bringing in politics, but like the maximum entropy thing humans in life will ever actually do is, Vladimir Putin gets ice cream with fucking, not fucking, but with Xi Jinping. Hilarious. I don't know what, you have a black hole obviously, but like you have black holes or you have these AI farms. We don't make it past that. No offense, bro, but this is why you have to see. If you don't see it all, you can't see it all. You're gonna fail. You're gonna fail. I don't know. I think Anson already went through this stuff. Commie books, gross cooties, evidence, consistency, brother. I don't have evidence. When I read Jeet, this is why I am, reading. Jeet and I are good friends. We've probably spent, I don't want to put a number on it, but we've spent enough time talking. We know each other a little bit. When I read Jeet, he might be saying something really nice to me, and because he's like one of those friends that makes me want to be better. I always see it really mean. So evidence and consistency, brother. I actually don't have any evidence or consistency for any of the stuff I just said. Sorry. I generally know this is how science works. It's not what this guy's saying. What he's saying isn't cosmology. What he's saying is poetry. It's like poetry written on a bathroom wall. Same thing, right? What am I going to go do? Am I going to go write the post correcting this guy? Probably not. I probably am not going to do that, dude. It's probably not. That's it. I got you, Jeet. This is the flavor of the day. Whoops. I'm gonna one-up you right here. Here we go. How about dem apples? You like apples, Jeet? How about dem apples? spam some of that stuff. Yeah, let's get this up on the algorithm, guys. The algorithm. Welcome if you're joining. Not really talking crap. We're in Reddit right now, but no, I agree. I agree, man. You're not very poetic. You're not very poetic. You're a good person, but you're not very poetic, right? That's what YouTube does. That's what YouTube does. All right. Let's get going. Let's get going. There we go. Okay, so yeah, let's so we're done with this one. If I go back to, whoops, this is what I did to my frickin' studio. This is what it looks like now. Oh, the humanity. Oh, the horror. I wanted to do one more question. I gotta go running soon, but you know, if you guys want to hang out for a bit for this, I'm gonna do this irregardless. No offense, but since we did metaphysics, boom roasted. Go ahead if you want. Feel free to like and subscribe. But I wanted to do one IR studies post. We're not doing the full content panel stuff today, but we are doing one more politics post. I know some folks might want to watch a video. Some people like the tech stuff. Since we're doing the tech stuff, me personally, I'm going to stay here a little bit, and we're going to do, maybe we'll talk a little more casually. And if there's anyone else sticking around, we are going to, you know, maybe this will float up some content ideas, right? This is one of the things I love to do is, like, if we overmind, if we go over a topic, sometimes it gives people new ideas to research or think about. Sometimes going under it and getting more granular does the same thing. And so I'm going to clip something from the IR thread. And this is actually, I think this is a very good question. I think this is a very good question. And it's perhaps valid, and we're going to clip more stuff because as much as I am a political science major, you know, the actual school, when we think about political science, we're talking about studying how nations interact with each other. We're talking about how governments work. We are talking about important questions about, so what is it, comparative, fucking IR. Oh my god. Political economy. This is, I don't know if this is stream brain, but I'm trying to, I gotta go after this to, I'll have to brush up on some stuff, but, you know, these are the types of questions, and so you get a lot of, you know, you can imagine with these really, like, global, generalized sort of schools of study, you know, within the domain of political science, which follows, like, research methodologies, you know, so if I say I'm a political scientist, you can probably assume I know how to apply some theory, I know some statistical methods, research methodology. I could tell you about qualitative and quantitative data sources, what those sort of look like a little bit. This is generally what it means to sort of follow that domain. And so, blammo. Okay. Does IR study, and so within IR studies, it's international relations. So it is exactly what it sounds like. Siajit, thanks for stopping by. So within IR studies, international relations, we're talking about how nations interact. We're trying to sort of predict how various actors, such as a state or a military or an international government, you know, we are talking about how we might predict like what might happen, how people interpret those events, right? Like how mad, so like this is like a very US first question, which, you know, I'm trying to work out of a little bit. I'm very patriotic, but I don't think it's useful. But like, how mad does the US have to be to go fight, to impose our own sanctions and then go tell other people to do the same? How pissed off does the US have to be? Do we have to be really pissed off about that? To go do sanctions? To go figure out how to get that done? You know, it doesn't really help anyone. So that's like a possible question. But this person, again, I don't want to dox them, so very, very sorry. I'll just put, let me move this to the top, just to sort of block the name tag. With little ducks Y, instead of like a, you know, I don't know if Anson's still around, instead of having tape on the nipples for chairman, with little duck stickers here. Little duck stickers. So does IR study with the problem of regurgitation? Lots of these. I'm a prospective IR student. I've been interested in IR for a while now. I don't know what the fuck this, I don't know, I wouldn't know what this means. I'm curious why someone considering it is already asking questions if they're not passionate about the subject matter. That's my own take on education. But I am curious, since he is a prospective IR student, what does this person mean by regurgitation? What do they already know? What do they want to know? Particularly in terms of career prospects. However, apart from the usual skepticism, lately I've been questioning myself about whether IR as a discipline suffers from a regurgitation of ideas and theory. It's not a theory, right? Okay. We're going to treat it like Reddit. So we're going to pretend like, you know, some of us in the audience, right? As a high schooler, obviously, I don't want to be indoctrinated. I don't want to learn stuff that, like, if I'm, you know, like, let's say I'm actually really cool with, like, Persians, right? You know, I had a ton of Persian and Indian friends in high school. And so, like that's cool. You know, we're obviously we're both, like, we're doing okay. We're not rich, but, like, we're fucking kind of balling. And so, like, but if you have friends or family in India still, I don't want to learn a theory that teaches me how to be mean to people in India or Iran or Russia, right? I didn't have, like, a Russian friend who immigrated to the US in high school, but I could have had it. There's probably many possible worlds where I had a best Russian friend that just happened to live in the United States and still gave a shit about Russia. So I don't want to learn the West and the rest theories that help me hurt people, right? If that's what I'm going to do, I'm just going to say that's what I'm going to go do. But, so I'm gonna write this out in chat, just my own personal opinion. Let me know if you have any ideas about this. We're doing an IR thread, if you know, and it's really just, all this is someone's asking, if I'm going to study IR, are we recycling theories? And this is my way of making that really important, is why would I learn IR theories or any theory that encourages me to be a big meanie head or to hurt, compete, or dislike people that I have to compete with. Oh, Nate, yeah, sorry, that's my real name. I'm doxing myself now, right? There's karma. Nathan, whatever. But, you know, oh, Duck's not a real IR theorist. He's not talking about he's not talking about competition. He doesn't know game theory. This Duck guy doesn't know zero and equal sum. No, you're just a meanie head. You're an asshole. That's the fucking bottom line. Bitch, you want me to throw this Daniel Kahneman book? Whatever. You know, some fictitious person? Bitch, I'll throw a book at a person. I don't give a fuck. The fuck you think this is, bitch? This is a game? Fuck that shit. Bunch of fuck. Yeah, I can't say all the words I want to be able to say. That's a lot of words I just said, but... like, the fuck you think this is? This is a fucking game? You don't have fucking... Do you know what the fucking CIA does? They recruit, they say, oh, you know Python, you work at MIT? Cool. Do you know what you should be doing? you should be learning even more Python, and you should be reading these fucking theory books. And guess what? We have this is our war plan, right? I love the CIA. I'm a huge fan of the CIA. But that is what the CIA does. I would just say I was going to do that. If I'm doing fucking IR and I'm studying shit, I don't want to necessarily always start with competition as the object itself versus just, well, I'm going to study this because it's practical. Boom. Sent to chat. This is Duck's own opinion. Yeah, and this is where we get cooked, by the way. I didn't intro this all the way, but here. Have some shit. Stick around for just a second if you guys want to have grown-up talk. Grown-up hour, this is the actual scary Reddit session. We're in the IR thread, right? This is the place you go to get roasted. This person's asking a question as a possible student of IR, so very cool. We respect that a ton. I'm not the person who should be answering this, but I would say, no, you actually get a lot of different theories. We're going to go see what this says. From my limited observation, so this is what our Reddit user has said here then. It says that I've been questioning myself about IR as a discipline suffers from regurgitation of ideas and theories. From my limited observation, there seems to be a lot of repetition of ideas in articles that I read, podcasts that I listen to, and videos of conferences or analyses that I watch. In other fields, such as philosophy, psychology, economics, biology, there seems to be a real problem that needs solving, and have tools or methods to achieve potential solutions. From my understanding, IR includes a lot of theory and often real-world affairs that are theorized to make sense of the discipline. But to what benefit? I have increasingly been hearing the narrative that the government or real diplomats don't use IR theory in real-world diplomatic process. Or during the Cold War, where we had during the Cold War in the US, a lot of us know only functional systems of anarchy and use, says Hansen. During the Cold War, I have stream brain right now. What was his fucking name? Fucking our Secretary of State. Henry Kissinger. You had the Kissinger doctrine. So during the Cold War, organizations such as RAND had significant influence over foreign policy in the US. Bull fucking shit they did. If this narrative is possible, or plausible, what is the contribution of contemporary IR academics? He's probably asking about like some of the more continental theories, which is like regional security theory. Regional security complexes is written by Buzan and Weaver. There's some algorithm porn. There we go. Ollie Weaver. Yeah. So, when we're talking about interpreting events, how we conduct diplomacy, all this kind of stuff. So he's asking, well, okay, look, it sounds like IR academics are going back and forth with each other. There's these cyclical things, and at some point those may be intercepted with some other idea, and I don't know about all of these theories that actually do exist that we possibly can reference, or the sub-theories. I don't know about the domain of those, like if those theories say they have a domain, or they have like real world, like this is what we study, this is what we're allowed to say, and it's really hard for us to go outside of that. It's actually really easy or comprehensive in some sense, but yeah, there's assumptions we miss. We'll tell you why they don't matter, because we're doing our job. And so he might not know about a lot of stuff. Hopefully this isn't too foreign for people. I spent 4 years in school studying this stuff, and so even having I had like a 6-month class just introducing IR versus and there's a lot I didn't get in undergraduate, but there's enough that I did get. There's enough here, I think we can talk about this a little bit. So yeah, good question. Good question. I wanted to screen grab one of the answers to illustrate how this is actually sort of easy to answer. And I'm not going to put the username in this one. I would remember not to do this, but Blammo. So there's our question. There's our question. Is there regurgitation? And here we go. Here's a good answer. IR regurgitation. And this guy, I'm guessing, because this guy gives a, you'll see. So we identified what the user is asking about here. We're gonna learn a lot on this, not too much, but we're gonna learn a little bit. And I think what we are going to learn here is that how do you actually apply this practically? Are academics tripping over themselves? And this guy says policymaking does rely on IR theories, but sometimes without policymakers being aware of it. Okay, so should a political science be paired with philosophy? Absolutely. Abe's going to distract me. Anytime a meme president asks a question of a political science, the answer is absolutely, Mr. President. Absolutely, Mr. Abe. Absolutely. We do talk about the metaphysics of IR theories quite a bit. Metaphysics, like, you don't need to be a metaphysician or a philosopher, but you know, like, this is a practical example. Is culture evidence of something? Can culture be used as evidence of something? And like, at what level, right? You know, if I go to like the Mall of America in Minnesota or something, or I go to a Knicks game in New York, something like that, and you know, I just see people, it looks like consumerism, like, and I say, okay, this is ordinary. I know what consumerism is. You know, that's one thing I observe, is there's consumerism. There's another thing, is there's some percentage of people with a significant other or some age group or with their family. The other thing is I could like actually go around and count how many like business entities or corporations are there. So if I'm at the Mall of America, is this evidence of like Western forms of realism? Like, because those culture things, I want to say those are out in the real world, right? They're philosophy, they're metaphysical. I don't know if I can know anything about those things or know anything about what they're about if you know, like if I'm talking at the level of a state, or I'm talking about how a government agency operates, or I'm talking about how an international trade dispute or something is negotiated. Like, yeah, if there's any actual political scientists, like especially like, it'd be funny if there's like a master's student or someone with a master's or even a PhD who's listening to this. It's like, you know, they can probably picture like, you know, okay, you go on like a Regis Philbin game show, right? This is what I can do for you, by the way. This is what I can do for you here. Is like, you know, you go on a Regis Philbin game show and they say, okay, well, you have 10 years. You have 10 years. I'm gonna give you these data sheets from, you know, yeah, you're gonna make double your salary if you win, but I'm gonna give you these data sheets about the last, you know, 15 years of malls in America, and I don't just want you to find correlations. And it's not only, you know, as A moves, B moves, you know, but I want you to actually create inferences into the data, you know, about how the corporate United States culture, how consumerism in the United States informs foreign policy. Right, and like in the real world, we should be able to answer a question like that question should be coherent. It's intuitive, it makes sense. But just from method and theory, we might not have an answer for it. So some people can say it's BS, but it's a different question to answer why the philosophy sort of supports the theory. I don't know if that is what you're getting from what this user is asking. It's a really powerful interpretation. So shout out Mr. Abe Dinkus. Also, you guys, if you want to, just in case that someone comes back and watches this, if you want to, if you want to blast your shit out in chat, your channels and stuff like that, cool. But yeah, I don't know if you guys are reading this while I'm just blabbering. It says, for example, contemporary U.S. foreign policy was shaped by a liberal paradigm that included theories like democratic peace theory, economic interdependence theory, and institutionalism, all under realism, right? Liberal, like you could say, like this is like what does a liberal realist think about? This is stuff they think about. And so while these, my Peter Zehan, let me do a Peter Zehan impression. While these set the basis for policy, it's not always actively recalled by policymakers, as the status quo becomes taken for granted. When policy change, as is now happening in the USA, they might be because some policymakers have adopted different theories. I would argue that realism is now slowly emerging in the USA and affecting some aspects of policy. Yeah, so certainly true that much IO research does not make its way into the policy world, but work and it does makes a big... Okay, so 2 ways. This is a great answer for someone who's a prospective college student. It's kind of a bullshit theory for a grown-up or an adult, though. So I can say that here too. Yeah, because why? Democratic peace theory. The idea that democracies don't fight with each other. Democracies don't like starting wars. Very questionable. There's Vietnam, Cambodia. Proxy wars everywhere, right? The USA loves helping other people start wars. Democracy might do that. So do other states too. So do you. So do you. So do you. So do you. Cuz, what's up? But yeah, democratic peace theory, economic interdependence theory. I'd have to reread what economic interdependence theory is. There's coming out of World War II with Bretton Woods, there was lots of belief that if economies were more interdependent, so the U.S. is involved. This is Europe's at war, right? This is World War II. We meet in New Jersey and we do foreign policy. We do international trade. We figure out how trade and development and reconstruction and trade is going to work. We figure out what trade's going to be like in New Jersey, in Bretton Woods, New Jersey. I don't know if this is what this sort of, if this is related. It might not be as closely related as I'm making it, but so when you have nations doing a lot of trade like the U.S. and China, or what's it called? Or anywhere in Europe, you assume you're not going to go to war. So if Germans are happy because Germans are trading with the French, and the French are happy because the French are trading with the Germans, if their neighbors in Russia, if they're happy because they're able to sell energy, like let's say, maybe we compete in these ways, but Russians are happy because Russian oil is going into Europe, and Europeans are happy because they're getting cheap Russian oil. They're getting Russian oil. And the US sees all this and they say, well, we're just going to outpace a lot of this stuff, as one does when you're winning, right? As one does. But yeah, I'm talking about a bunch of bullshit now. So economic interdependence theory, I think I'll look it up later, but I think it is just, I know more about politics than you, Duck. Debate me, bro. Sure. You probably do. I don't want to debate you about politics. I don't want to debate you. I would. If it happens organically, then I'll definitely do it, but... no. So institutionalism is just saying, well, you kind of know where to go in a society. So if, let's say someone's having a problem with young people being radicalized, not like the right says in the United States, oh, you have all these left-wing groups coming out of colleges. What the fuck are you talking about, dude? That's not a problem. And no, it isn't. Go to a political science department, bitch. The fuck you think, like, who the fuck do you think I am? Like, go to fucking UCLA, bitch. The fuck do you think this is? You think you're gonna have fucking Marxists sitting through, like, okay, you're gonna select every class on, you know, the ICC and apply for your LSATs or something? Bitch, where the fuck do you think you are, bitch? There's a Circle fucking K 5 fucking feet from this bitch. Snap into a motherfucking Slim Jim. Right, bitch? What's up? Like, you know? MIT's some fucking Marxist hotbed? No, it fucking isn't. Those people want to make 180K when they graduate. Right? They saw Mark Zuckerberg build fucking Facebook, and they said, well, I can't build Facebook. Maybe I'll have an idea that's like Facebook, but I can't do that. I still want to do something that's like Facebook, though. You know, fuck all this noise, right? I'm goddamn sick of sitting and doing bubbles on my SATs and shit. I'm also getting sort of fucking sick of these abstractia, you know, theoretical homework problems. It's fun. It is cool. I'm learning a bunch. Maybe it's whatever the fuck ever. Like, it's practical. But, you know, I'm 24. I'm at MIT. I'm about to graduate with a bachelor's or something. Good job. Like, it could just work that way. I make $130,000 as a junior developer now, and I'm sick of this shit. I'm sick of bubbles. I'm sick of abstract bullshit. I don't give a fuck about Piers Morgan. I don't care about any of this shit. Marx fucking what? Yeah, cool. Give me a fucking book. Give me the synopsis. What are we talking about? I'm not a fucking Marxist. Or I am a Marxist. I'm a democratic socialist. Who gives a fuck? The fuck is Elon Musk actually doing right now? I don't give a shit about what he's saying on CNN, dude. This is, I mean, and so institutional, that's what we're talking about, institutionalism though, right? We're talking about, is there a communist problem? How is institutionalism relevant for IR theory? Because if people are saying the US is getting radicalized, we're being too radical, we're being too radicalized, my PC's working a little too hard, so I'm going to end this soon, but, you know, we're talking about the US, people in the US being radicalized, or anywhere, and you say, well, dude, start a fucking college program. Like, fix your fucking shit, dude. Do you guys need a loan? Do you need some money? Like, what the fuck is wrong with this? You know, in theory, it should be that easy, right? It's like, you know, fix your shit. Launch a new fucking media app, dude. Like, and I'm not saying this to be rude, I'm not saying this to do propaganda, this isn't social control, but these people, if they're running around thinking they can build like a fertilizer or something or another, right? They can fill up the back of their fucking van with something and like go do something really nasty. Like, you're gonna have too many people doing that. You're gonna have too many people not wanting to work or get a job. You're gonna have too many people who can't work or can't get a job. What the fuck is that stuff, dude? That isn't anything. So institutionalism says, well, if I'm having problems with young people, I elect fucking young politicians, right? Go, like, you know, this should just be happening organically, by the way. People should just decide this is how society should work. You launch Netflix, you fucking get, you retune your education programs, you tell people, go play sports, have Gatorade, whatever, who gives a fuck, whatever the fuck ever, right? Without institutionalism, right, and this is why the US criticizes Iran and stuff like this. Well, first, okay, how does Iran actually work, right? I love that we've got the IR studies tab up there. Reddit, keep me honest. My education, keep me honest. Talking about institutions, young people, domestic schmerismism. We're talking about this stuff, keeping me honest. Good, keep me honest. But, like, yeah, how does Iran actually work, right? You know, in the US, you know, if the US really wanted to say something mean and nasty and say, well, we're, you know, ding, you know, this is the soundboard. How are you guys doing? Ding, we're doing good. We're okay. How are you guys doing? Ding, you know, they you know, but how does Iran actually work with it without, like, okay, if you say, well, institutions, like just saying education is healthy, that's very important in Iran, by the way, right? Like, Iran graduates the same amount of men and women. They have, I think it's free social universities. University of Tehran is like a great school. You know, I think there's a lot of people in Iran that think about getting a U.S. degree because economically U.S. degrees are typically very valuable. You know, for whatever reason, I don't understand that, but you know, and so I would say all the glowing things I can about Iran here, but after all that, right? After all that, and don't clip me, bro. Don't take out the context here. If you're the U.S. and you say, well, bitch, you know, I just, you know, this is what I do. I go to fucking CNN, and this is how gangster I am. I say education sucks. I do a story about, like, Liberty University honestly fucked up, so I'm going to talk about education now. Whoever it is. You know, Trump tried to start a school. That's bullshit. That's complete bullshit. Institutionalism? No, that is Trump's, you know, egotism or whatever. Whatever. You know, who actually does that? Who looks at a spreadsheet and says, I'm going to start a university? That's something a crazy person does. That's what a crazy person does. You want to talk about homeschooling or something? No, okay, parents, obviously I respect you, but like, that's it. No. Institutionalism, education. So if Iran's having a problem with education, do you have to go to, do you have to look at Islamic policy on education? Do you have to have a religiously informed belief? Do people ultimately have to have a religiously formed belief, and so it's turtles all the way down? If that's partially true, the US is going to say, well, fuck you. I don't want why would I give you money for that? Why would I tell people? I want people to, you know, and again, to my friends in Iran, I'm so sorry, but you have a textbook, and it's, even if you don't fucking see it, you have this little, like, you know, you don't have the democracy, you don't have US empire democracy, evil empire seal of approval here. Competitively, you have this little, you know, the moon, no respect the moon thing, and you have a beautifully written book. You have something that, an authentically written book, but it is, you know, it's like, well, this isn't from an Islamic society. That's not why it's bad, but you only have fucking books that an Islamic society produces, then, bitch. Right? I've got fucking Fear and Loathing. The fuck else do you want, right? I have Fear and Loathing. I have Quentin Tarantino. I've got all these fucking books next to me. I've got stacks of books. I've got stacks of books here. These are all from my education. When young people are pissed off, I have stacks of books I can write. All of the books in the fucking world. All that you can handle. Right? And so this is why this is not an adult answer, but it is an appropriate answer for someone asking about college. An adult answer is, does theory overlap? And it's like, well, I don't know. If I'm an IR theorist and I'm talking about metaphysics and totality and realism and competition, look at my fucking books, bitch. Do you know how fucking rich I am? Do you know how much fucking money I have? Every Ivy fucking League school in the United States has people with fucking 30 years of education with teams of researchers behind them. And guess what that does? That goes to another 10,000 people that go do policy with it. And guess what that does? That goes to 350 million American people who then go out and they go to work and they buy things and they sell things and they go to church, or they don't go to church. Doesn't matter to me, because they make stacks of fucking books like this. That is institutionalism, bitch. Is there regurgitation? I don't give a fuck. Call it whatever the fuck you want. What do you think this is? What did you expect here? What did you expect here? And there's someone in Iran who could give me this. If Iran has a drastically different worldview about the international system, or even when they're saying, well, this is how Iran understands, like, okay, the US don't understand how the US sees the future, and I'd say, okay, 100% down with that. I fucking hate that stuff. And they say, okay, I'm not going to understand how some Iranians see how Iran sees the future. I'm just going to tell you what Iran understands now. They could go through and do the same thing. They could say, look, I don't just have a Quran, right? The fuck did you expect to see here, bitch? What? Like, you know, I've got all the top professors with teams of researchers. You've got 10,000 people who read their shit, make policy, and then that goes out to however many million Iranians there are who go out and go to fucking work. They go to church, or they don't. And what the fuck do? They make stacks of books. It's not institutionalism, but it's something else. It's something else. That is fucking fire, dude. What a good question, right? Just from this little two things. So that's an adult question. You know, democratic peace theory and stuff, these are all really interesting as well. Institutionalism, maybe you can see my bias as a theorist. I would describe myself more as a theorist. I would like, and if there's any like actual political scientists watching me lose my shit here, I can understand, like I could read something. I don't have that high of a capacity for like long, lengthy text passages, but if I read something like that's short and then it's also concise, like I would say I have a master's level understanding of some stuff. You know, I could, like, right? I don't know why I said that. This is Stream Brain. Maybe I have a PhD understanding of some of the stuff. Like, you know, I love talking about like metaphysics and epistemology with stuff. I love ontology and political theory too. That's interesting, right? Saying like the US has to have institutionalism. Like that's just what the government, the realist government that we have, is you have a government that describes things based on this. So like the language of the state language, almost like a neo-Hobbesian idea. State language is that of institutionalism, and that universally goes towards competition. That's a really difficult idea to hang on to. How the state knows something isn't only because of language about institutionalism and universals, because it's competitive. It's competitive, but it's also comprehensive, right? And so like the state ontology, neo-Hobbesian, almost a little like neo-fascist, is like, you know, the United States uses this institutional language which moves towards a universal, but it's not actually about the universal. It's because language is about competition and inclusion and liberal values. What the ontology of the state actually sees is individual ontologies, which is independent from, but sort of, you know, in some sense, like... Give me 1 second. I want to go for a run. This guy kind of owned us, though, I think. When policies change. So, you know, just really quickly, I'm going to do one short tidbit, and I'm going to stop the stream because my CPU is working too hard. I don't know. If you guys, if anyone's watching, any new people to the channel, you know, small channel, we are growing a little bit, and so if you want to come be a part of that, cool, drop us a like, please subscribe. Feel free to leave like content recommendations. If it's something in my wheelhouse, I'll definitely cover it. Definitely see some of you guys around the panelverse and, you know, whatever, Discord, that kind of stuff too. I don't know, I'm not gonna make a Discord right now, I'm not planning on it. But yeah, like and subscribe, super helpful for me, makes these sort of I don't know, whatever. I'm gonna do a couple more of these. I'm gonna do these anyways. I don't know why I'm giving you my problems. But yeah, but like, yeah, a regional theory, different than institutionalism, might say, well, we interpret stuff. You have to sort of understand the ontology of actors. You have to understand how we interact on stuff. You have to have like very firm realist conception of what security means. Absolutely. It's an absolute, but you know, we can talk about stuff, right? That speech becomes something that is almost real or more important than like data that we see. So versus the US, who's going to say, well, if you're fucking up in healthcare, fucking up in education, fucking up on human rights, then we think that you are generally messing up. We think you generally messed up. And so, yeah, just because you can't make prescriptions in, you know, you might say that, well, it's not actually competitive, right? This is where Buzan and Weaver are different, is you might say, well, yeah, Europe, it's not that, like, Europe probably has had situations and has situations that will arise where it makes more sense to exert hard power. And yeah, there's Europeans who agree with that. But that might not necessarily be the most competitive choice. The most competitive choice might be saying, well, look, you know, the way we see it, the way we have to be able to see this is there's different ways. There's different ways we can work things out. There's different ways that conflicts can escalate or de-escalate. There's different ways conflicts can lead to other policy issues, and it doesn't absolutely have to be about fucking human rights and free speech. Like, you know, those guys across the Atlantic, you don't want to do business with them. They don't actually want to be here either, right? The way we see it is that, you know, look at all the time the US spent and see how different this is, right? Are we regurgitating theory? Maybe. This doesn't sound like that to me, though. You know, look at all the time the US spent. Like, do you know how many both government and non-government organizations do healthcare with the stated geographical domain of the Western Hemisphere? A lot. There's a lot. That's institutionalism. That is also, if you're Buzan and Weaver and you're talking about regional security complexes, do business, stay safe with your closest neighbors, they're saying that is that's not really institutionalism, that is regional security complexes. Yeah, go do healthcare, cool. Tell me more about how you're going to talk about that stuff later. Democratic peace theory. Yeah, okay, cool. You know, but if people are trending towards, maybe that's a more difficult, like, theory if you wanted to undermine it. Like, you know, isn't there a world where we picture Southeast Asia or something? You know, lots of democracies, but at some point it makes more sense for us to do business separately. This is the pins and needles stuff. A lot of IR theorists are really good at this as well. Anson's beard, Anson doesn't just have a better beard, he's got better hair than I do. Duck, your buddy Duck doesn't have a good beard, man. I'm jonesing to get some sun and go do some push-ups though, man. I'm gonna end the stream. I'm gonna end this. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you for anyone who came, and I will see you guys around. If you guys want to fuck around and do a intellectualist panel or something, that would be cool to do. That would be cool. Your buddy Duck is gonna very crassly and ugly do. And this is who we are at the end of the day. We're shamelessly grifting. We don't need dollars and cents. We need likes and subscribes. Shameless. We're shamelessly learning. We are shamelessly talking about democracy. We're shamelessly talking about Iran and geopolitics, but we're shamelessly talking about social media, right? Reddit and all this stuff. As a pushback to your democratic peace theory, I'd recommend you review and stream. I think Robert is, I'm at the point, because I'm a new streamer, says 2 hours and 12 minutes. I think you're plotting against me. I'm 90% Robert Switzer in chat is plotting against me right now. What do you guys think, Abe? Anson? I'm not telling you guys to obviously joking by the way, but I'm not telling you guys to like I'm not telling you guys to tell me what to think right now, but what I am telling you is that I don't trust this million dialogue. I don't trust if I don't know it. I probably don't know it, but I think you're plotting against me. The reason I think you're plotting against me is Thucydides, the history of the Peloponnesian War. You know, I'll check that out. I'll actually check it out. I'll leave it in my browser and I'll go see if there's anything I can grab onto. That's my litmus test, is if I can, because I'm a very slow learner. It takes me a long time to get new stuff, but if there's anything I can pull apart or latch onto, I'll check it out and see if I can say anything about it. I don't usually do antiquity stuff, and just so you guys to get to know Duck's channel a little bit, the reason I don't really do a ton of antiquity stuff is, like, the CIA didn't exist in antiquity, right? CIA came, the first CIA in the world came out of, like, the Eastern Roman Empire, right? It was like the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, you know, or like, you know, the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. It was like a Justice League. But Yeah, and I know of people that like classics, people that like the antiquity period, really love it, know a lot. I'd love to, yeah, I'd be cool down to either like just sit in the audience or something or whatever for that kind of stuff. But yeah, you know, you had this organization in the Eastern Byzantine Empire, which was like Justice League. And like specifically what they did is they provided translations. If you came with an envoy, but you weren't the politician, they were the sort of stewards. They were the people that would escort people around and all that stuff. Yeah, and it was like an intelligence agency. They would tell people like, well, this is how stuff works. This is how stuff gets done. And if we are going to front channel or back channel something effectively, then how do you think that happens, right? You talk to the city governor, right? You talk to a governor. If that's who you've been told to talk to, that's who you talk to. What the fuck do you think that guy's gonna say? But yeah, with democratic peace theory and stuff like that, you know, that's what I was gonna do on this video too. Is I was gonna start, and this tells you how bad I am, Robert. I was gonna start with city-states. You know, if you see the title, I was going to do a short documentary instead of all Reddit for 2 hours. You can do Reddit, you can do 2 questions on Reddit for 2 hours, but you can spend 2 hours answering 2 Reddit questions that someone typed out in 30 seconds. But yeah, the good part, the exciting, good, fun time part is that like city-states started to operate a little bit more like states. You know, they were independent, they had armies, they had trade, they had accounting, lots of historical records from that time, and Westphilian states. And so I will review your shit, but I also don't think that Roman Empire is relevant at all. Duck forgets the Roman Empire. I'll just say it, yeah, fuck Babylon, I don't give a shit about Persia, I don't give a shit about Rome. Those people were fucking backwards, you know, witchcraft, you know, devil worship, superstitious, baby killing, right? You know, there were plunderers, there were pirates, all of those things living within, yeah,